This world is composed of 4 nations: water, earth, fire, and air. The Avatar, the master of the 4 elements, maintains peace among them. The Avatar is the only one with the ability to master all 4 elements. When an Avatar passes away, his spirit is reincarnated into a new body. After the previous Avatar's passing, the new incarnation has not yet appeared. Therefore, the leader of the Fire Phoenix Empire, Fire Lord Sozin, took the opportunity to embark on his conquest. In the peaceful night, a earthbender of the Earth Kingdom is fleeing in an alley. Soldiers from the Fire Phoenix Empire behind him keep attacking. The earthbender can only touch the ground with both hands, consolidate the soil layers on the ground into one entity, and launching a fierce attack forward. This Earth Kingdom person knows he can't escape, so he throws a scroll to his companion, instructing them to take it back to the Earth King. Then, he turned around and pulled up a soil wall, buying as much time as possible for the fleeing companion. Even though he resists in a cornered position, the Fire Phoenix Empire has superior numbers, and they eventually capture and bind the Earth Kingdom individual to bring him back to their palace.
Your battle plans are already on their way to the Earth Kingdom.
Unbeknownst to them, this action aligns with the intentions of the Fire Phoenix Empire. Once the Earth Kingdom receives those plans, the attention of the other nations will shift to the Earth Kingdom. Thus, the Fire Phoenix Empire can focus on tracking down the next Avatar. After Sozin finishes speaking, he burns the Earth Kingdom warrior to ashes. At the Southern Air Temple, a young boy named Aang from Air Nomad is showcasing his acrobatic skills in the air. He is a rare prodigy seen once in a millennium. Aang's nimble figure cuts through the sky, like a ray of light in the darkness. The old teacher doesn't forget to warn Aang, even though you are ahead of others, there is still much for you to learn. The teacher stops at that point, and then asks Aang to help prepare for the Comet Festival. The air nomads will soon arrive. Just as the words end, several flying bison appear in the sky. The 12-year-old Aang is unaware of the destiny that awaits him. The elders are troubled by the vacant Avatar position, wanting to elevate Aang to that role as soon as possible. But Teacher Jack believes he is still too young, and not ready to bear such a heavy responsibility. Finally, the leader of the air nomads makes a decisive decision, ordering Aang to leave the Southern Air Temple, and begin training in the other bending arts. Jack can only take Aang to the statue of the previous Avatar, Yang Chen, and then tell him, "Young man, you are the Avatar, and must leave home to learn to master the remaining 3 elements as soon as possible." The young Aang doesn't understand his mission, and feels sad about leaving his people. Aang returns to his dormitory unable to sleep, so he decides to ride Appa outside to clear his mind. If Aang had another chance, he would definitely not sneak out tonight, as warriors from the Fire Phoenix Empire have already arrived outside the temple. Sozin doesn't know who the Avatar is, so he orders the extermination of the entire air nomad population, sparing no one. This night is an endless nightmare for the air nomads, from children to the elderly, all falling victim to the attacks of the Fire Phoenix Empire. Several elders do their utmost to protect their people. The constant flickering fireballs almost illuminate the Southern Air Temple. The cold-blooded Sozin shows no mercy. Jason guards his young disciple, exhausting his last bit of strength to confront Sozin, but he is no match for the flames, and ultimately falls to Sozin's hands. On the other side, Aang encounters a storm. Appa is unable to stabilize his flight, and both Aang and Appa fall into the sea. In the icy and snowy Wild Wolf Bay, water tribe girl Katara and her brother Sokka are fishing on the sea in their boat. Suddenly, there is an energy fluctuation underwater, and a strong current carries their small boat forward. Fortunately, both of them are thrown onto the shore. Katara sees their boat drifting away. She quickly uses her waterbending to control the boat. The next moment, the ground shakes, and a large ice sphere on the shore explodes with several blue lights. The energy wave reaches a certain ship in the distance. Prince Zuko of the Fire Phoenix Empire watches the pillar of light, his face filled with fanatical excitement. Here, some background needs to be introduced. Zuko is the eldest son of the current Fire Lord Ozai. Ozai, in the past, promised his uncle to exile Zuko, in order to become the king of Omashu. So, Zuko has been searching for an opportunity to capture the Avatar, and return to the Fire Phoenix Empire. Meanwhile, Katara and Sokka look at the ice sphere ahead, and see a young boy standing in the backlight. It turns out to be Aang, who drifted to Wild Wolf Bay along the sea. The siblings bring him back to their dwelling. The first thing Aang does after waking up, is to search everywhere for Appa. He flies around in the air, attracting a large group of water tribe people to watch. Fortunately, Aang's efforts were not in vain. After hearing his master's whistle, he quickly came over. Aang, immersed in joy, was still unaware of what had happened to his people. It was not until an old lady in this place told Aang that the air nomads you speak of have disappeared for several generations. The Southern Air Temple was the first to fall. The last Comet Festival happened 100 years ago. Aang's deep sleep has lasted for 100 years. During this time, the Fire Phoenix Empire has caused countless wars, making him the last air nomad in the world. Katara understands Aang's feelings. 3 years ago, her father and other warriors pursued the Fire Phoenix Empire. Since then, there has been no news. Her 13-year-old brother Sokka took on the responsibility, guarding this small water village at the South Pole. Aang soon discovers that Katara is not an ordinary water tribe member, and she is a waterbender. Although her abilities are not high, and she is still practicing diligently, Katara hopes Aang will keep this matter a secret, as the Fire Phoenix Empire is hunting down benders from other nations, and Katara is already the last waterbender in the south. Seeing her struggling in her training, Aang intervenes to guide Katara, helping her make a breakthrough. But before Katara could even enjoy it for 2 seconds, Zuko's ship arrives outside the village. He tells the water tribe people that if they hand over someone who doesn't belong here, he won't start a war. Otherwise, the Fire Phoenix Empire will turn this place into ashes. Sokka, to protect the village, turns to hand over Aang, but is stopped by his sister. Aang is the last air nomad, the destined avatar. We have a responsibility to protect this hope. Though Sokka is uncertain, he still goes out to confront Zuko with the weapons his father left behind. But Sokka can't use waterbending. How can he defeat Zuko? At a critical moment, Aang appears. Ordinary people are no match for Aang, but there are water tribe civilians behind him, so Aang agrees to go with Zuko, with the condition that the Fire Phoenix Empire won't harm anyone. Upon hearing this, Sokka feels a sense of duty, and hands over the village affairs to his second-in-command, preparing to rescue Aang with his sister. Smart Katara gives up the water route, and rides Appa with her brother towards the front. At the same time, Aang uses airbending to take the guard's key, then he slips out of the prison cell. Aang sneaks his way to Zuko's room. He stuffs the notes on the table into his waistband, and retrieves his own weapons. Aang quietly sneaks onto the deck to prepare for escape, but he is spotted by Zuko. He leaps off the ship and glides away, but in the next moment, Zuko hits him. Aang falls downward. In a critical moment, Sokka grabs his hand. Zuko throws another fireball, but it's intercepted by Katara. Luckily, Aang taught her a move beforehand. Now that the three of them are exposed, they definitely can't return to the Wild Wolf Bay. Aang decides to go back and visit the Southern Air Temple, where the remnants of the war from 100 years ago still remain. Aang walks into the main hall, and immediately recognizes the skeletal remains of Monk Gyatso. Anger fills his chest. Suddenly, Aang levitates in midair, creating a whirlwind around him, as debris and dust get caught in the vortex. Fortunately, Jason's previous teachings bring back Aang's sanity. Katara embraces the 112-year-old avatar, allowing him to cry. Aang quickly regains composure. He must shoulder his responsibility. He cannot let the air nomad's sacrifices be in vain. Aang has Zuko's notebook. According to the notes, the former avatar Kyoshi, she was the fiercest warrior in the world. There might be something in her temple that can help and control his powers. So the three of them prepare to go to Kyoshi Island. Just as they are about to set off, Aang finds a flying lemur in Katara's bag. These creatures from the air nomads have the ability to fly. Katara picks up a scroll from the ground. She discovers that it was secretly placed there by their grandmother. It contains the ancestral waterbending techniques passed down in the water tribe. It's a gift from the older generation to Katara. The new chapter of their lives is about to begin. After bidding farewell to Jason, Aang sets off officially. The lemur, named Momo by Aang, follows them. The group quickly arrives at the Kyoshi Island temple. Sokka rushes into the main hall recklessly. As a result, he is attacked by a few local warriors. Katara asks, "Did you see that guy? He is the Avatar, after all."
There would have been signs if he was the Avatar.
The Kyoshi statues have a theophany. Several warriors take Aang to meet the leader. He explains that he only wants to borrow a few books to learn more about the Avatar. At first, the leader does not agree. She can't just rely on a few lights to determine that Aang is the Avatar. But Suki, her daughter, believes they shouldn't overlook any possibilities. Finally, the leader makes a concession. She gives Aang and his companions 48 hours of free time. Zuko and his uncle Iroh arrive at the port of the Fire Phoenix Empire's general. It is the local information hub, able to capture any news in real time. But Zuko must be cautious. He must not leak the news of the Avatar's appearance. Otherwise, a large group of people will compete with him for credit. So Zuko doesn't explicitly mention it. He simply asks the general to present recent surveillance reports and nearby nautical maps. Iroh chimes in on the side. "Our prince is looking for a group of shark octopuses. If we miss the opportunity, we won't be able to catch these cunning fish." General Zhao says he will present the information tomorrow morning. He also asks the prince to find a place to rest for the night. General Zhao is well informed. He figures out Zuko's plans overnight. He quickly finds out that the prince has met the Avatar. On the other side, Aang is having fun on Kyoshi Island. He is naturally enthusiastic and cheerful. his spirit remains undiminished no matter the circumstances. Communication, building bridges, are Aang's most valuable talents. Of course, he hasn't forgotten about his mission. Just as Sokka is playing with Suki, he and Katara are searching through the ancient texts in the temple, but they haven't found anything after searching for half a day. Actually, Aang's previous loss of control at the Southern Air Temple wasn't accidental. While other children were learning how to enhance their abilities, Aang had to learn how to control his power, because whenever he relaxed even slightly, he would harm his companions. Aang couldn't adapt to the state of spiritual manifestation. That's why he came to Kyoshi Island to find a solution. Katara encourages Aang not to lose heart. You are the reincarnation of past avatars. Perhaps the answer lies within you. Meanwhile, Zuko realizes that General Zhao's ship is missing. He stops a passerby and asks, only to find out that General Zhao followed the Flying Bison's information, and set off for Kyoshi Island in the early morning. At this moment on the island, Suki is training the warriors. They are different from the guerrilla fighters of the Wild Wolf Bay. They have received strict training since childhood. Sokka wants to learn a few moves from Suki. Meanwhile, Aang heeds Katara's advice, choosing to search for answers from within himself. Surprisingly, this approach actually works. He is pulled into a hallucination by the Kyoshi statue. Kyoshi's first lesson for Aang is called responsibility. She gently touches his forehead, and shows him the consequences of failure. Northern destruction. Another bending master wiped out. Fires of war everywhere. Meanwhile, the sound of bells echoes through Kyoshi Island. It's a signal that outsiders have invaded. The leader and Suki go out to stop General Zhao, and Zuko's ship cuts in from the rear. Although Sokka, Suki, and others fight bravely against the enemies, the Fire Phoenix Empire has a large number of people. They can't hold on for much longer. On the other side, Katara can't wake up Aang. She has to go out alone to deal with it. She stands at the foot of the mountain, using waterbending to intercept Zuko, but Katara's power is far from enough. Just then, Kyoshi tells Aang, I will show you the abilities of an avatar. In the next moment, she manifests through Aang's body, and immediately strikes Zuko away. Then Kyoshi arrives at the forefront of the battlefield. She waves her arms, summoning water currents. Water pillars engulf the Fire Phoenix Empire. Then the flowing water mixes with the power of intense fire and earth. The three elements combine to form a vortex with the energy, and then explodes in a dazzling blaze. General Zhao shouts to retreat. This is the power of an avatar. Afterward, the light fades and Kyoshi disappears. The one lying on the ground turns back into Aang. Although the people of Kyoshi Island have suffered a setback, Aang has shown them the hope of victory. Perhaps this is the power of belief. After bidding farewell to Kyoshi Island, Aang continues his journey. Before leaving, Suki gives Sokka a folding fan. Aang contemplates the issue on his way. As Kyoshi said, the Northern Water Tribe will face danger. He must hurry there to help. He can't let another bending master be wiped out. Meanwhile, General Zhao spreads the news of the Avatar's appearance, and it reaches the hands of Ozai, the new king of the Fire Phoenix Empire, in Omashu. In a small dark room at the foot of the Imperial City, several civilians are brewing an uprising. They are preparing to launch a nighttime assault on the palace to assassinate Ozai. Their only chance of success lies with Martha, because she is familiar with the layout of the palace. Martha says her family died in the Battle of Basin City. She is willing to pay any price to fight against Ozai. She leads a dozen people to infiltrate the Grand Hall. The next moment, flames ignite, and right after, Ozai appears. The previous Martha changes her appearance, and approaches Ozai. It turns out the palace maid was disguised by Princess Azula. She is Ozai's daughter, and Zuko's sister. She deliberately brings the traitor before her father's flames. Later, Ozai hands General Zhao's letter to his daughter. Azula sees that her brother has found the Avatar. The desire for victory burns in her mind. Azula pins the letter to the target. The arrow hits the bullseye. If Zuko returns to the Fire Phoenix Empire, then she will be even further from the throne. Azula immediately writes a letter to General Zhao, instructing him to closely monitor Zuko's progress, and report any news. On the other side, Aang and the others are on their way. They see someone resembling an air nomad entering Omashu. Omashu is a building carved out of a living mountain, and has an incredible transportation system. It is one of the last strongholds of the Earth Kingdom. No matter how hard the Fire Phoenix Empire tries, they haven't found a way to bring it down. Yet, Omashu is not friendly to outsiders. The three of them ask a delivery boy for help, to sneak into the city in his truck. This big city is different. Compared to Wild Wolf Bay and Kyoshi Island, it's like New York or Paris. Aang immediately spots the person resembling an air nomad. Without hesitation, he starts chasing after him. Only when he catches up does he realize that person is not an air nomad, but a disabled person named Beto. He can fly using the devices on his body. Suddenly, the building behind them explodes. Smoke obscures their vision. Aang clears away the smoke. extinguishing the surrounding flames. Katara also helps by using water to put out the fire. At this moment, Dick rushes over to save his son, and he invites Katara and the others to seek shelter at his home. Dick is the royal mechanic appointed by the king of Omashu, so the house is filled with tools. Beto is not surprised by the recent explosion, because the spies of the Fire Phoenix Empire are everywhere in the city. Omashu may seem prosperous, but it's actually full of danger. Since the mission to save the Northern Water Tribe is not yet complete, Katara and Sokka want to leave immediately. But Aang can't leave the injured people of Omashu behind. He decides to stay and help everyone. Beto excitedly says that the person who planted the bomb is hiding in the mountains. He can't reach there on his own, but with Aang's airbending, they can definitely catch those bad guys. Katara is not involved in this matter. She is focused on practicing waterbending. One day, she sees Dick sneaking out, and handing a scroll to the cloaked figure. Katara intends to get closer and take a look, but she is pulled aside by the delivery boy she met earlier. The delivery boy says the cloaked figure is a spy for the Fire Phoenix Empire, which means Dick is a traitor. He has been making machinery for the Fire Phoenix Empire, selling secrets. This time, he might be betraying Aang. The delivery boy grabs his weapon, and prepares to chase after them.
Who are you?
You can call me Jet.
Katara decides to follow Jet's lead. Unexpectedly, their actions have been discovered by the Fire Phoenix Empire. They brought 2 accomplices. A big battle is inevitable. Seeing Jet and Katara about to be overwhelmed, Jet suddenly blows a whistle. Several young teenagers rush out to help. They quickly subdue the Fire Phoenix Empire spies. Jet leads Katara to visit his base. The people here have all lost their families due to the war. Everyone trains day and night without stopping. It's to defend their homeland. Omashu is now in decline. The king of Omashu has lost his courage, allowing corruption to spread around him. That's why Jet and the others have a place to use their skills. Upon hearing this, Katara is deeply moved. She can't help but confide her recent troubles to Jet. Recently, Katara keeps recalling the scene of her mother's murder, the fear engraved in her bones. It severely affects her waterbending. Jet gives Katara some advice. When a person is in battle, they must utilize everything they have. You can recall the memories your mother left when she was alive. Replace the fear with those happy feelings. This advice indeed helps Katara make a breakthrough. While things are going well on this side, Sokka is studying mechanical design with Dick. He has a natural talent for being an engineer. He gave up his hobbies just to protect the Southern Water Tribe. Dick is the first person who encouraged him to pursue his passion. On the other side, Beto and Aang also arrive at the mountaintop cave. Because of the explosion that occurred, Beto saw green flames, which proves that the explosives contained borax. Only this cave produces that mineral. Aang praises Beto for being clever, but he says he learned it all from his father. The two quickly find the borax and saltwater mixture that creates explosive jelly when boiled in the cave. At that moment, Aang suddenly sees a familiar robe.
The firebenders weren't behind the explosion.
On the other side, Zuko and Iroh also infiltrated Omashu. Zuko heard about the Fire Phoenix Empire spy setting up a sneak attack. He felt some anger in his heart. What kind of warrior hides in the shadows? It truly tarnishes the reputation of the Fire Phoenix Empire. Zuko is a man of principles. He often reprimands his subordinates for this. That's why Lieutenant Ji under his command betrayed him and joined forces with General Zhao. Aang comes back to Sokka with the robe. Sokka recognizes it was used by the delivery boy to cover the radish. Sokka quickly realizes that Jet is suspicious, but Katara also comes running, saying that Dick is suspicious. The siblings take different sides, one supporting Jet, and the other supporting Dick. They start arguing immediately. To prove that she didn't misjudge someone, she hurriedly runs to find Jet. On the way, she is spotted by Zuko. After finally finding Jet, she learns that Jet's people have switched the box Dick was supposed to deliver to the King of Omashu. And they also said, they want to blow up the King of Omashu.
Sokka was right. You are the bad guy.
Katara explains that the building they destroyed was a gathering place for spies. She didn't do anything wrong. Katara runs back to Beto's house, calling for her companions to intercept the bomb. Just as the three of them leave, they are stopped by Zuko. Aang instructs Sokka and Katara to chase after the bomb. He stays behind to deal with Zuko. Iroh quickly reminds the prince to be careful, not to attract the Earth Kingdom's army. Upon hearing this, Zuko simply gives up his bending, and switches to close combat. He has undergone rigorous training during his 3 years of exile. He has never slackened in his training. But who made you encounter the Avatar? No matter how skilled you are, can you defeat him? Zuko is forced to use firebending. The two engage in a clash in the busy marketplace. Sokka and Katara board the trolley and enter the palace. As Dick is about to approach the King of Omashu, Katara notices an archer hiding in a tree. She quickly manipulates water to extinguish the arrows. On the other side, Aang continuously follows Zuko and extinguishes fires. Iroh sees the approaching army. He quickly pushes the crown prince aside. He reveals his firebending to distract the soldiers. Zuko hastens to leave before the gates close. Over there, Captain Aang has just finished extinguishing fires. He is also captured by the Earth Kingdom. Coincidentally, he encounters Iroh in the prison cell. Their prison cells are opposite each other. Aang didn't expect this. He has a chance to visit Omashu's prison. You see, 100 years ago, Aang used to visit his friend Bumi here often. The soldiers interrupted his reminiscence. They want to transfer Iroh to a prisoner labor camp.
You're not as lucky. You're going to see the king.
It's not until Aang meets the old king that he realizes the other person is none other than the young boy Bumi from back then. But times have changed. Power and war have greatly changed Bumi's nature. He dislikes Aang's hopeful demeanor. He thinks this kid has been asleep for 100 years, and has no idea how cruel war can be. So Bumi is determined to make Aang suffer a bit. While leading him, he deliberately traps him with minerals. Bumi watches happily as Aang struggles. He leads him to a door, saying that inside lies a true test, to determine if you're ready to be the Avatar. Aang follows him inside. Little did Aang know, Bumi tears open his shirt, and insists on fighting Aang to the death. Meanwhile, Sokka is interrogating Dick, asking if he is collaborating with the enemy. Dick glanced at Beto and admitted it, but the Fire Phoenix Empire threatened Beto's life. He compromised for the safety of his son. Katara interrupts their argument. She says she found Aang, but Omashu's prison is located in the deep mountains, surrounded by solid rocks. The only way to get in is through the palace. Beto suddenly speaks up. He knows a secret tunnel hidden beneath the mountain. Dick agrees to hand over the tunnel map. Unexpectedly, a dart flies into the door frame. It's a contact from the Fire Phoenix Empire requesting a meeting. Sokka instructs Dick to be a spy within the spy. They can contact an Earth Kingdom general to set up an ambush, to capture all these spies in one fell swoop. On the other side, Zuko hasn't given up on Iroh. He knocks out an Earth Kingdom soldier, then disguises himself and blends into the group. Zuko quickly sneaks into the prison, and subtly interrogates a prison guard. He learns that Iroh has been transferred to a prisoner labor camp. At this time, the escort team is moving through the forest. Iroh discreetly drops a round disc, as a marker in the rear of the convoy. When Zuko follows the tracks left by the convoy, sure enough, he sees the mark left by Iroh. At this moment, the commanding officer in charge of the escort intentionally provokes Iroh. During the siege of Ba Sing Se many years ago, the commanding officer's 19-year-old brother was killed by Iroh's fire. To this day, he has nightmares about it. He can still smell the pungent smoke. His subordinates quickly restrain the commanding officer.
You have no humanity. You know nothing of loss.
Iroh understands the pain of loss. His own son also died in the war. When Iroh was in a state of despair, it was Zuko who gave him great comfort, and made him see the shining qualities of the Crown Prince. Suddenly, several burning logs block the convoy. Immediately, Zuko appears. After rescuing Iroh, the two of them fight side by side, as they witness the commanding officer about to die in the flames of the Fire Phoenix Empire. Iroh suddenly stops. Zuko fears more soldiers might catch up. He quickly pulls Iroh away. Meanwhile, Sokka and his sister follow the map and enter an underground tunnel. But as soon as they enter the cave, they encounter a group of people singing around a campfire. It seems that the tunnel isn't as scary as they thought.
Those are the tunnels.
The bard suggests that since they're going into the tunnel, they might as well learn about the story depicted in the murals. Legend has it that Oma and Shu met on the mountaintop. This mountain separated the villages where they lived. The two villages were enemies for generations, but that didn't stop Oma and Shu from falling in love. They went to learn earthbending from the Badger Moles, and became the first generation of the Earth Kingdom. Afterward, the two of them built a complex tunnel for secret meetings. But one day, Oma died in a sudden attack. In deep grief, Shu unleashed her earthbending, causing both villages to crumble in defeat. She could have destroyed everyone, but Shu declared the war over. The people from both villages, in gratitude, helped Shu build a new city, where villagers could live in peace. People named the city Omashu, to commemorate their love. Above the eerie and terrifying tunnel, there was a slogan, "Love shines brightest in the dark." The bard reminds Sokka and Katara to remember this phrase, in order to successfully exit the tunnel. After Sokka and Katara enter the dark passage, they suddenly notice the walls covered in glowing dots. They decide to follow the light and move forward, but they soon realize that the tunnel is constantly changing. The siblings turn around and head back. Suddenly, they hear the roar of a wild beast up ahead. they turn around and run away. Unexpectedly, the badger mole grabs Sokka's leg. Katara quickly whips a water column at it, and takes the opportunity to pull her brother away. But ahead is another dead end. The badger mole has caught up to them. The siblings hold each other's hands tightly and close their eyes. To their surprise, the badger mole stops attacking and remains still. Katara cautiously reaches out her hand, and discovers that the badger mole is actually blind. It turns out that this spirit animal can sense emotions. It sensed the deep bond between the siblings. That's why it stopped attacking. This is the meaning of love shines brightest in the dark. The badger mole starts digging to guide the two of them. Meanwhile, Bumi and Aang are still in a duel. Even though Aang doesn't want to fight, Bumi shows no mercy.
You were the Avatar, and you left us.
Friends are indeed the most unreliable. Bumi unleashes one powerful move after another. He lifts two massive rocks and hurls them at his opponent. But Aang, in order not to harm Bumi, refuses to strike back. He withstands the pressure of the rocks. In a critical moment, the siblings arrive. Sokka charges forward and knocks down Bumi, successfully saving Aang.
Cheater! You cheated! You didn't do it on your own.
Aang retorts to Bumi, "You're wrong. We can always rely on friends. That's how we can defeat the Fire Phoenix Empire." After saying that, he takes out a small stone he carries with. This is the gift Bumi gave Aang 100 years ago. This sincere gesture finally awakens Bumi's brave and kind nature. Afterwards, he agrees to cooperate with undercover agent Dick to guard Omashu, and it's time for Aang and the others to set off. The three of them evade the pursuit of the Fire Phoenix Empire along the way, advancing towards the Northern Water Tribe. Just then, Aang sees smoke ahead. They stop in the woods to assess the situation, and find the mark of the Fire Phoenix Empire on the ground. A little girl hides behind a tree, too afraid to come out. Fortunately, Sokka is skilled at taking care of his sister. He knows how to handle children. Just as the girl is about to let her guard down, Katara and Sokka scare her away by getting close. The three of them follow the girl and arrive at a lakeside. They discover a small village there. From the villagers, they learn that the Fire Phoenix Empire burned down the forest to create a shortcut for themselves. But after the fire, the crops withered. Even the livestock stopped eating grass. The locals are struggling to make a living. A few days ago, they sent people out to search for food, but the search team never returned. The girl's brother, Mike, is among them. Aang promises the villagers that he will bring back the missing people. He suspects that Mike and the others are trapped in the spirit realm. It turns out that beyond the world where Aang and the others live, there is another realm. Normally, the two realms are separate, but in certain special areas, the barrier between the two realms is thin, because the Avatar is the bridge between the natural world and the spirit realm. So Aang can sense that the fire weakened the barriers of both realms. He must find the place with the strongest spiritual energy, which is the entrance to the spirit realm. Just as he finishes speaking, the three of them accidentally enter the temple of the forest spirits. There is no place more spiritually abundant than this. Aang immediately sits down, and prepares himself for astral projection. Sokka and Katara stay behind to guard Aang's physical body. He meditates until late at night, before successfully projecting his soul. Yet, the problem is that Sokka and Katara's souls inexplicably leave their bodies as well. The next moment, the three of them are sucked into the spirit realm. On the other side, Zuko finds out that children are playing with ice near the forest pass. How is it possible to have ice in this season? It must be the work of the water tribe accompanying Aang. Zuko and Iroh chase after them, and inquire about the whereabouts of the water tribe in a tavern. To their surprise, everyone in the tavern already knows that the Avatar has reappeared. Zuko angrily storms out of the tavern, realizing that the news has spread completely. At this moment, a villager rushes over seeking help, followed by a bounty hunter, named June, chasing after him. The spirit beast ridden under the crotch is called Nyla. Any creature struck by its tongue will be paralyzed. Iroh knows how to use people well, so he spends money to hire June for help in finding Aang. On the spirit realm side, this place is connected to the physical world. Events happening in the outside world also affect this place, so the spirit realm forest has also suffered damage. Aang is contemplating where the villagers might have hidden, but suddenly, a giant owl emerges in front of them, and only Aang can understand its language. The owl claims to be the spirit of knowledge. Aang wants to inquire about the whereabouts of the villagers, and the owl tells him to find the owner of the stone house beyond the forest, who might know the whereabouts of their friends. Besides that, the owl warns Aang that the longer humans stay in the spirit realm, the more dangerous it becomes.
Things in here that will reveal truths to humans. Truths they're never prepared.
Aang doesn't understand the meaning of this statement. As soon as the owl finishes speaking, it flies away. Katara notices that something is wrong with Aang's expression, so she asks what the strange bird said. Aang honestly replies, "He said you will see the truth."
I can deal with the truth, but I can't deal with getting eaten by some giant spirit monster.
Sokka, being the pessimist, remarks, and a mysterious spirit creature appears from the shadows. The three quickly hide on either side of the path. Observant Aang recognizes it as the spirit of the forest, because it has the same scratch marks on its face as the statues outside. Then Aang realizes that he is unable to perform bending, and Katara is experiencing the same situation. Just as the spirit creature is about to strike her with its palm, Sokka quickly distracts the creature by provoking its attention. Aang quickly tells everyone to run. When Sokka gets up, suddenly a three-tailed white fox that can speak appears behind him. It says that the spirit creature didn't intend to harm anyone but became agitated due to injury. After the white fox finishes speaking, it disappears into the trees. Sokka steps on the muddy ground and moves forward, but suddenly the muddy path beneath his feet turns into a snowy ground. Then Sokka's father appears before him, and he remembers it as the day they were practicing ice dodging. Sokka almost caused an accident near the glacier due to a mistake in his maneuver, but an elder named Beto helped him in time. Back then, his father didn't criticize Sokka, but this time he overhears his father talking.
If it weren't for you, Sokka would have wrecked us. We're lucky to be alive.
To Beto and senses the disappointment in his words. This deeply hurts Sokka's heart. Meanwhile, Katara also gets lost in the mist. She enters the illusion of Wild Wolf Bay as well. Her mother's voice comes from beside her, and for a moment, Katara forgets where she is. Happily, she follows her mother back to the camp.
Sokka used to tease me about. Where's Sokka?
Katara faintly senses that something is wrong and tries to use bending, but she realizes that she can't control the water. Just then, the sound of cannons from the Fire Phoenix Empire can be heard from outside. This is actually the night of the attack on Wild Wolf Bay. At this moment, Katara's mother desperately pulls Katara to escape. This scene is so familiar, as it has played out countless times in Katara's nightmares. She knows her mother will die tonight and she can't let the tragedy repeat itself. Katara activates waterbending once again, and although she gathers water in a barrel, the power is too weak and it reveals the presence of the Water Tribe in this location. A soldier from the Fire Phoenix Empire pushes her mother aside and is about to search under the table, but her mother quickly lies, claiming to be from the Water Tribe. So, is this the truth that the Spirit of Knowledge mentioned? The two siblings are indeed deeply affected, and Aang also falls into an illusion at the Southern Air Temple, but he remains conscious and doesn't fall for it.
What have we here? Someone who can resist? That can't be possible.
The Face Stealer takes a closer look at Aang and realizes that he is the new avatar, which is why he didn't fall for the illusion. The Face Stealer holds a grudge against the previous avatar and attacks Aang. Aang runs away, but ends up tripping over a Japanese-style girl. When he looks up, he sees the stone house that the strange bird mentioned, and surprisingly, there's Jack inside. Aang initially thinks this is also an illusion. On Jack's table, there is a game that the two of them often play. Could it be that the person in front of him is real? Aang is confused, and Jack explains that after the attack on the Southern Air Temple, most deceased people are reincarnated, but he chose to stay.
Why?
Because I knew you would need me.
Aang asks how he can save everyone. Jack explains that there is a mist of confusion in this place, which traps people in their darkest memories. The Face Stealer hides in the darkness, and preys on those trapped in despair. Perhaps the villagers have all been captured by it and taken to its lair. Luckily, the Face Stealer doesn't feed for a short period of time. Aang has time to save his friends and the villagers. Jack also mentions that this Face Stealer is named Ku. Roku was a subordinate of the previous avatar, but no one knows the specifics of that battle. In order to defeat Ku, Aang decides to talk to Roku. However, Roku's temple is located in the Fire Phoenix Empire. Aang embarks on a dangerous journey. His spirit returns to his body, and he leaves a mark in front of the forest spirit statue. He instructs Appa and Momo to protect Sokka and Katara. After making all the necessary arrangements, he immediately sets off for the Fire Phoenix Empire. On the other side, Zuko is chasing Aang when he discovers that Lieutenant G has secretly changed the course. Zuko is about to confront him when suddenly Zhao appears. He brings a military order from Ozai, revealing that the Fire Lord has assigned the task of capturing the Avatar solely to Zhao. Zuko's crew also betrays him and follows Lieutenant G. Finally, it is Iroh who comes forward to mediate. He states that Zhao is not worthy of their loyalty, but Lieutenant G has had enough of Zuko's insults and abuse. The Crown Prince has no understanding of the meaning of loyalty.
He did? He would have shown us, the people who've been with him, night and day for 3 years, a lot more respect.
Meanwhile, Aang finally arrives at his destination. As soon as he arrived, he was caught by several Fire Phoenix Empire soldiers. Aang uses airbending to knock them down. then swiftly escapes into the depths of the corridor. Unexpectedly, a Fire Phoenix Empire soldier drags him into the shadows, and openly states that he will take Aang to Roku's temple. This soldier from the Fire Phoenix Empire is named Xiaoyu. Though he is a Fire Phoenix Empire citizen, he longs for peace. Xiaoyu is willing to help by holding off the pursuers, giving Aang time to speak with Roku. In the illusion, Roku appears as a mischievous old man in his 70s. Aang seeks advice from Roku on how to deal with Ku, but to his surprise, Roku reveals that he never defeated Ku. He only took a totem from it, which belongs to the Mother of Faces. This ancient spirit is Ku's mother, who crafts the faces of all living beings. The totem represents Ku's longing for a family. Aang can use the totem to exchange for his companions. Before parting ways, Roku kindly reminds him that friends will eventually become burdens for an avatar. In crucial moments, an avatar must make choices and prioritize the world's needs over his own. After listening, Aang returns to his physical body, and pushes open the door, only to find Xiaoyu, the Guardian, missing. Aang pushes through the Fire Phoenix Empire on the ground and discovers that they have been paralyzed. It turns out June, accompanied by Nyla, has arrived. Nyla's tongue strikes Aang, causing him to faint. When Aang regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up in a cave. Zuko receives the news and rushes to his aid, with Iroh following closely behind. Before June leaves, she kindly warns both of them that Aang is highly sought after, as there is a group of hunters constantly gathering information nearby. Aang sat at the back of the carriage and wouldn't stop talking, hoping that Zuko would rescue his friends first. However, the other party acted extremely heartless.
I've always been this way. What happened to you?
Aang was right. Several years ago, Zuko hadn't become corrupt. He had empathy and compassion, but these traits were not acknowledged by his father. During a certain meeting, Ozai wanted to sacrifice a battalion of Fire Phoenix Empire soldiers to breach the fortified borders of a neighboring nation. Zuko stood up and opposed his father. Ozai knew it was time to teach his son a lesson. He forced Zuko into a duel, and the father and son fought fiercely, evenly matched. Just as Zuko found a weakness in his father, he couldn't bring himself to strike. Yet, Ozai severely injured Zuko. He told his son that sympathy is a sign of weakness, and then left a hideous scar on Zuko's face. The flashback ends here. Zhao leads the Yuan archers to surround them. This archer unit is Ozai's pride. They can shoot down firefly wings from 1,000 paces away. Zuko, unwilling to cooperate any further, has no choice but to hand Aang over. Zhao takes their captive to a base camp at Pihue, and they will head to the capital early tomorrow morning. This place is very secure. To celebrate their capture of the Avatar, Zhao decided to entertain the soldiers tonight, unaware that a mysterious masked individual had quietly infiltrated the base. Following the liquor carriage, the masked person slithered like a ghost into the sewer, and made his way to the high-security prison where Aang was held. As he turned a corner in the corridor, several flashes of firelight caught the attention of patrolling soldiers. Unexpectedly, they fell victim to the masked intruder's ambush. Effortlessly, the masked person dealt with a few guards, and swiftly entered the prison cell, cutting Aang's handcuffs. Instead of revealing his identity, the masked person tilted his head, signaling Aang to escape. By the time Zhao realized something was amiss, Aang and the masked person had already climbed onto the city wall. The soldiers couldn't let them escape, and rushed to intercept them. Aang joined forces with the masked person in the attack, easily overpowering the lackeys of the Fire Phoenix Empire. Aang sent the Fire Phoenix Empire soldiers flying with a powerful blow, then grabbed 2 wooden ladders. He intended to use the length of the ladders to cross over the city gate. However, Zhao unleashed a fireball, knocking them down. Sensing the situation, the masked person immediately took Aang hostage. As it is well known, if an avatar dies, they will immediately reincarnate. So Zhao undoubtedly wanted to capture Aang alive. In the next moment, the city gate opened wide. Zhao pretended to let the 2 of them go, but arranged archers to shoot at the masked person, just as the second arrow was about to strike. Aang used a dusty storm as cover, and quietly unveiled the masked person's identity. Unexpectedly, the person turned out to be Zuko. Aang intended to leave him behind and escape, but he ended up hiding together with Zuko. Aang couldn't help but engage in small talk with him, even complimenting Zuko's neat handwriting in his notebook.
Can't tell you how many nights I stayed up reading it. You helped me a lot.
In reality, if they didn't have opposing positions, the 2 of them might have become good friends. Zuko admitted that he captured Aang to return to his own country, to become the heir to the Fire Lord. This was also his father's expectation of him.
So you don't have to be like him. You can show some compassion.
Unexpectedly, this statement enraged Zuko. Sympathy is a sign of weakness, something his father taught him. Aang had no choice but to knock Zuko unconscious, and he sent him onto a ship. Aang asked Zuko, if this were the peaceful era from 100 years ago, do you think we can become friends? Zuko couldn't answer this question, but Iroh knew the prince's inherent goodness. Lieutenant G and the crew were still alive, which was the best proof. It turned out they were the sacrifices chosen by Ozai back then. It was Zuko who stood up against his father and gained the lifelong scar, saving the lives of those soldiers. Lieutenant G only learned the hidden truth today. At that moment, a light appeared on the sea surface, signaling Zuko's safe return. Lieutenant G let go of his resentment, and led the crew to pledge their loyalty to the prince. On the other side, Aang returned to the spirit realm, and returned the totem to Ku. Upon seeing this, Ku released Sokka and Katara along with the villagers, but Jack, who was in the stone hut, disappeared without a trace. Meanwhile, Lieutenant G received some bad news. He heard that the Fire Lord personally ordered to send someone to bring Zuko back to the capital city, and detain him on charges of treason. Iroh suspected that Zhao was behind this. He urged Zuko to escape overnight, emphasizing that he must not fall into the hands of the Imperial Guards. At this moment, the three of them were unaware that it was all part of Zhao's scheme. He deliberately spread false information to mislead Lieutenant G. Furthermore, the ship where Zuko escaped was filled with explosive jelly. Meanwhile, Aang and the others finally arrived at the Northern Water Tribe. Chief Arnok, the leader of the tribe, personally came to greet them with his daughter Yu. They were already aware of the Fire Phoenix Empire fleet approaching, but the arrival of the Avatar brought confidence to the entire tribe. Upon hearing this, Aang felt overwhelmed, while Katara seemed to be in her element. The Water Tribe also arranged a waterbending master named Yugoda for her, but the women of the Northern Water Tribe only focused on healing techniques, and didn't engage in combat on the battlefield. This greatly disappointed Katara. As for Sokka, he had been captivated by Yu. The two of them hit it off immediately. It was only when Sokka saw the princess's headdress that he realized she was the three-tailed white fox. It turned out Yu had a serious illness in her childhood. Her parents prayed to the moon spirit to save their daughter's life. The moon spirit responded to their plea, and infused its essence into Yu's body, granting her a new life. As a result, Yu, being part human and part spirit, could freely enter and exit the spirit world, and thus coincidentally encountered Sokka. On this day, Aang, under Yu's guidance, went to pay respects to the statue of Avatar Kuruk. He hoped to find a way mentioned by his predecessor to deal with the Fire Phoenix Empire. This Kuruk had spent years wandering the spirit world, oblivious to worldly matters. Aang pleaded with him to control his own body and win this battle, just like Kyoshi. However, Kuruk was injured in a previous battle and even had his lover's face stolen by Ku. At present, he was unable to control the manifestation of divine powers. This time, Aang had to rely on himself and couldn't depend on any friends. Aang's state of mind was influenced by the previous avatars. He felt that allowing Katara and others to join the war would distract his focus.
These people need the Avatar. And I can't be the Avatar with you around.
The Fire Phoenix Empire fleet quickly reached the northern border. Zhao, full of confidence, planned a direct frontal assault. He was unaware that Zuko was not dead, but had disguised himself as a soldier and infiltrated the fleet. Zuko intended to capture Aang and prove himself to his father, while Iroh advised him not to act recklessly. It seems that Zhao has someone supporting him from behind, and that person is Princess Azula. She grew tired of life in the capital and desired to display her prowess outside. On the other hand, Katara refused to accept the restriction that women couldn't participate in combat. She prepared to challenge Master Pakku, who established this rule. The battle was intense and thrilling. Although Katara didn't emerge as the victor, her extraordinary courage impressed everyone. As a result, Aang also understood that he couldn't prevent his friends from joining the war only because he was worried about them. While the words of previous avatars held wisdom, Aang had to write his own legend. Aang and his companions rode on Appa and infiltrated the enemy fleet. With seamless coordination, they destroyed the control room and set the ship ablaze. However, they soon discovered countless enemy ships beyond the clouds. Meanwhile, Zuko, who was guarding the rear, grew anxious. He wanted to climb the cliffs and scale the city walls. Iroh, knowing he couldn't stop Zuko, could only remind him, "You can search for gaps along the coastline and move along the warm currents." Due to the overwhelming number of fleets sent by the Fire Phoenix Empire, they had to switch to a defensive strategy. Yet, Zhao brought a secret weapon. He obtained a flying ship from a spy of Omashu. This time, the Fire Phoenix Empire seemed to have an assured victory. Katara sought out Pakku to persuade him. In order to block these fireballs, they needed to gather more waterbenders. Pakku disregarded gender and called upon anyone who could use waterbending to step up. The Water Tribe leader knew the situation was grim. He instructed Sokka to take Yu and leave. In case something happened to him, Yu was the future of the Northern Water Tribe. The women of the Water Tribe erected an ice wall to buy time for the princess to escape. The battle continued until nightfall. Iroh noticed that the moon was exceptionally bright tonight. It's important to know that the water tribe's life force comes from the ocean spirit, while their power comes from the moon spirit. Their ancestors studied the ebb and flow of the moon to develop water bending. The clearer the moonlight on nights like this, the more abundant the energy of the water tribe obtains. Therefore, Iroh suggested a temporary halt to the attack. However, Zhao claimed that tonight was the spirit moon, the thinnest barrier between the physical and spiritual worlds. Spirit beings from the spirit world would enter the mortal realm. He brought Kuruk's blade from the Fire Phoenix Empire, intending to seize this opportunity to kill the moon spirit. Kuruk sensed the power of the blade. His spirit materialized and warned Aang that the blade was made from spirit world materials and could harm elemental spirits. Now that it reappeared in the north, it indicated one thing: Zhao intended to use the blade to kill the moon spirit. Such an act would throw the entire world out of balance. On the other side, Sokka was fleeing with Yu. Unexpectedly, a fireball struck a building. Just as debris was about to hit a palace servant, Momo saved her. Sokka carried Momo out from the rubble. Yu said she knew a way to save her. So, the two of them brought Momo to a hidden sanctuary in the north called Agna Kuirala. It was an oasis nestled deep within the glacier, and its spring water had healing properties. Momo immediately regained vitality in the water. Sokka finally felt relieved. Meanwhile, Zhao's airship balloon appeared before Sokka. He and Iroh, accompanied by a few soldiers, disembarked. Zhao didn't know in what form the moon spirit would appear, so he needed time to identify it. On the other side, Zuko unexpectedly sneaked into the northern city from a thin ice patch in the warm currents. He quickly found Aang and Katara. This time, Aang didn't hesitate. After handing Zuko over to Katara, he left. Katara, with her exceptional talent and dedication to training, had already mastered the intricacies of waterbending during these days. Her strength had greatly increased. With a casual gesture, she turned the water into an ice wall and sent a powerful blast towards Zuko. Shattered ice surrounded the young man's body, instantly freezing him into an ice stick. However, Zuko also kept a backup plan. He expelled a breath of fire, shattering the ice pillar. Meanwhile, Aang also arrived at the oasis. Sokka pulled him into the bushes. The three of them hid in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. Zhao approached the pond. Two goldfish, one black and one white, swam in a yin-yang formation. He suspected that they were the ocean and moon spirits. Despite Iroh's persuasion efforts, Zhao's eyes were blinded by power. He used a net to capture the white fish. In the next moment, the bright moon turned into a glaring red. The whole earth was shrouded in a blood-red light. Aang quickly came out to intervene. He expressed his willingness to surrender, hoping that Zhao would release the moon spirit.
You don't matter anymore. Actually, I'm not sure you ever did.
After Zhao declared his intention to stab the moon spirit, it was Iroh who intervened in the critical moment. The bag containing the fish fell to the ground. Aang hurriedly unleashed his airbending, but Zhao was still one step ahead. He used a dagger to pierce through the white fish. Now, the moon couldn't emit even a red light. The water tribe's bending abilities immediately ceased. The Fire Phoenix Empire broke through the city gates and stormed into the northern palace. Katara's powers also diminished, and a fireball was shot towards the palace where she was. Everything unfolded just as Kyoshi had foretold. The water tribe faced an impending disaster. Iroh didn't anticipate the situation would escalate to this extent. He unleashed several powerful attacks in an attempt to kill Zhao, but that guy took advantage of the chaos and escaped. In his anxious state, Aang looked towards the black fish in the pond. Suddenly, an idea came to him. He planned to enter the body of the ocean spirit to save everything.
Don't do this. You'll be lost forever.
I should have been lost 100 years ago.
The water streams emitting blue light surged towards the sky. Aang entrusted himself to the ocean spirit, allowing the spirit to guide Aang and control the power of the avatar through him. This also meant that Aang would lose himself, leaving behind only the ocean spirit's rage. Seeing that the situation had spiraled out of control, Iroh quickly found Zuko and took him away. Little did they know that they would encounter Zhao on the way. Zuko thought to himself when he saw Zhao, it was this person who had destroyed everything. Zuko unleashed his full power, leaving Zhao defenseless.
We think the Fire Lord was gonna take you back. From Daddy. Ozai was just using you.
The search for the Avatar was merely a ruse. Zhao made Zuko think about it. If it weren't for Azula gaining favor from Ozai, enabling her to manipulate the entire situation from behind the scenes, how could a mere junior general like Zhao command the Yuyan archers, or recognize the identity of the masked man based on a sword hilt? An angry Zuko sent Zhao flying with a single strike, then followed Iroh to leave. Meanwhile, the ocean spirit continued attacking the ships of the Fire Phoenix Empire. It had completely gone mad at this point. It exhibited a relentless determination to eliminate anyone who stood in its way. The warships of the Fire Phoenix Empire were quickly destroyed. Katara tried to restore Aang's consciousness, but all that remained was a lingering spirit of vengeance. The moon spirit wandered endlessly in search of its partner. The world would forever lose its balance. Just then, you thought of something. She approached Sokka and kissed him goodbye. Then, she returned the essence within her to the moon spirit. The connection between the moon and the ocean was re-established. Aang also regained himself in response to Katara's call. This brutal battle finally came to an end. Although the Northern Water Tribe suffered numerous casualties, as long as the moon remained, there was hope for the Water Tribe. Afterwards, Pakku entrusted the oasis water to Katara, blessing her with a safe journey in the future. While Aang's mission was not yet complete, he had to learn the other 3 elements, to prevent future wars and avoid devastating losses like the one they experienced today. On the other side, Ozai learned of the failed attack on the Northern Water Tribe, but he did not show any signs of disappointment. It turned out that sending troops to the north was only part of his plan. The true target of the Fire Phoenix Empire was actually Omashu. At this moment, Azula had already led her troops to occupy the ancient city. The story of the first season comes to an end here. Avatar is an animated TV series that aired on Nickelodeon, an American international children's channel. The story has elements of Chinese mythology and the character designs have a strong Eastern charm. That's why there is great anticipation for the live-action adaptation of the series by Netflix. The visual effects and set designs are impeccable, and the production team consists of top-notch professionals. The overall story remains almost faithful to the original, without excessive changes. That's all for today's video. See you in the next episode.